Hey friends, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I am doing a big lunch meal prep for you. So I am going to be out of town for work during the month of March for at least 2 weeks, maybe more than that. I used to travel a lot for work, but I haven't in the past 2 years really, so I'm not used to it, and I just want to get as many meals prepped ahead of time as I can. I'm hopefully going to be taking some of these with me on the road. So I've tried to make the plan things that will freeze easily and also I'll be able to transport easily. So we're going to make some lemon chicken orzo soup, pizza meatballs, pesto chicken, and then an egg bake as well. Let's get started with the lemon chicken orzo soup. This is everything for the soup. So you just need some chicken breasts. I'm only going to use 2 of these. And then carrot, celery, onions, some lemon juice, and these seasonings here. So the recipe actually wants you to cook this in a Dutch oven, but I'm cooking it in a crock pot because I'm lazy. And it's easier just to put it in the crock pot and forget about it. So let's get going. You want to start by dicing up your carrots, celery, and onions, and then just throw all of those in the crock pot with the chicken. Next, you'll add in the chicken broth. You all know that I use the better than bouillon instead of chicken broth, so I'm just adding the water, and then I'm going to add the better than bouillon in after that. You'll add 1 bay leaf, and then here I am adding in the better than bouillon as well. Next, you'll add in the garlic. I believe the recipe called for 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. I honestly don't measure garlic that closely. I just throw it in. Then some thyme leaves and some rosemary. And then some oregano and parsley after that. I will leave the recipe linked down in the description box below, just like always, so you all can find the exact measurements and the exact recipe there. Next, I'm going to add some salt to the crock pot and then some pepper after that. You'll just put the lid on the crock pot, and then I cooked it on high for about 3 to 4 hours, just until your chicken is ready to shred easily. After it's done, you'll take it out of the crock pot. Well, let it cool so you don't burn yourself, but take it out of the crock pot, and then you'll add the rice after that so it doesn't absorb all the moisture, and then juice your lemon in at the end. So I'm just taking the chicken breast out and I'm shredding it up now, and then I'm going to divide these up into mason jars for lunches. I'm putting them in mason jars because these freeze really well in mason jars. You can just throw them in the freezer and they're easy to transport. The lids are tight, they won't leak, so mason jars are perfect for this. We are making an egg bake next. So I need to do this one next so that I can stop eating this bacon. I've eaten like 3 or 4 pieces already. You'll start with your peppers and onions. You dice those up, and then you're going to put them in a skillet with some of the bacon fat from the bacon that you cooked. So I cooked mine in a sheet pan, but I saved some of that bacon fat. When the peppers and onions are translucent and they're tender, you can add in spinach. The recipe doesn't call for spinach, but I wanted to add some extra greens to mine, so I added in some spinach. This looks like a ridiculous amount of spinach until it cooks down into basically nothing. So I added those veggies in the skillet, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to crack 12 eggs. So I cracked those eggs, and then I'm going to whisk them all up and add in some cheese to that mixture. Next, you'll add in the bacon and mix all of that around. Then you'll add in your veggies from the skillet. The recipe says to let these cool before you add them in the eggs, And I get it, they don't want the eggs to cook, but I didn't really have a whole lot of extra time this day. I didn't want to wait around, so I just put them straight into the eggs. I figured they were going to bake in the oven anyway, so it would be fine. And it was. It turned out just fine. They didn't really cook the eggs very much before I got them into the pan, so it was fine this way as well. Add in some salt and pepper and mix that up before you put it into a 9x13 pan. And make sure you spray your pan before you put the mixture in there. After this is in the pan, you'll bake it in the oven at 350 for 25 to 35 minutes. Mine took on the longer end of that time just to get everything done in the middle. And you'll see here Corey did a taste test for me and he liked it. I thought it was really good as well. So on to our pizza meatballs next. So these are one of my favorite lunches to make. I really enjoy these a lot. You start with 2 pounds of ground beef and you're going to add an egg into the mixture, and then you'll add in your almond flour. So these are a great option if you're gluten-free because they use almond flour instead of regular flour. So next you'll add in some garlic powder and then onion powder. So this original recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of chopped onions. I use onion powder instead because the onions just don't have enough time to bake fully in the oven, in my opinion. And I don't like big chunks of uncooked onions. So I use onion powder and it gives the same flavor. I think they taste really great still. You'll add in some oregano to the mixture. And then you'll add in some marinara sauce. So the recipe, which will be linked down below for you, calls for, I think, 1.25 cups of marinara sauce. And I just thought that that was a really large amount of marinara sauce for this amount of meatballs. And I would recommend that you start with maybe 1/2 cup and then add on from there, because I never end up using the full 1.25 cups. So after you have mixed everything together, you're going to separate out the meatballs on a sheet pan and bake those in the oven. You'll see when these come out of the oven that the ground beef that I used had a lot of fat in it, and it came out on the sheet pan. It baked out on the sheet pan, which was fine, but if you could use a lower fat ground beef, that would be better. I serve these with marinara sauce and veggies for lunch, and they are so good. Next up, we are making pesto chicken breasts. So I'm just using the thin cut chicken breasts here, and I'm going to lay those out on a sheet pan and then spoon some pesto sauce on each one and just smooth that over so that it covers each chicken breast. Then I'm going to add cheese on top of the pesto. I'm using provolone cheese here, but you could use mozzarella cheese or whatever kind of cheese you have. It would be good with this. I normally also put a tomato slice on each one of these before I bake them in the oven, but I was planning on freezing these and I didn't know how the tomatoes would do in the freezer, so I didn't add the tomatoes this time. But you definitely should add the tomatoes if you're just making these for dinner or something, because it really adds a lot of flavor. It's really good. Bake these at 375 for about 20 minutes or just until the chicken is cooked. Here is everything packaged up and ready for the freezer. This is a whole month of lunches all done in one day. So I'm super happy with this, super excited. I won't have to make lunches again for the rest of the month. That's it for this one, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. If you do, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to know how you found the channel and where you're from. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.